What happens when the criminal underworld stops playing by any rules? When gang warfare spills into suburban streets with machine guns blazing in the dead of night? Sydney is facing an unprecedented surge in gang violence, and what happened in the early hours of November 16th in Casula has sent shockwaves through both law enforcement and the criminal world itself. The brazen shooting that saw up to 40 bullets fired into a Western Sydney home, the taunting messages left behind, and what it all reveals about an underworld that police say has thrown the rulebook out the window. Let's start with what happened that Saturday morning. At approximately 2:20 AM on November 16th, residents in the quiet suburb of Casula were woken by a sound that should never be heard in a residential neighbourhood: the rapid-fire crack of a semi-automatic weapon. A masked gunman, using what police believe was a machine gun, unleashed a hail of bullets into a two-storey home on McKellar Street. Witnesses reported hearing between 30 to 40 shots fired in quick succession. The attack was captured on video by the gunman's accomplice in the getaway vehicle, and that footage has since been circulated throughout Sydney's underworld. The house was riddled with bullet holes, glass windows and doors were shattered, evidence markers littered the crime scene. But here's the chilling part: the home had been vacant for some time. Police sources say the gunman likely knew it was empty. This wasn't an attempt to kill someone in that moment, this was a message. According to New South Wales police sources, the intended target was an associate of the notorious Al-Medine crime family. This individual has a serious criminal history, including admitting to the manslaughter of a Vietnamese drug dealer over a decade ago in what was claimed to be self-defense. He showed police where the body was buried, but investigators don't believe that old case is connected to this shooting. As one senior police source put it, there could be 6 or 7 motives behind this attack. The ongoing gang war in Sydney has created a complex web of rivalries, debts and vendettas that can explode into violence at any moment. But the shooting itself was only the beginning. What happened next shows just how brazen Sydney's criminal underworld has become. A handwritten note on cardboard began circulating among underworld figures. The message was direct and mocking: "Come out the boneyard, Barangaroo, and play with us." The note also specified a meeting time and location: 3 PM at Waterloo Green, a grassed area surrounded by high-rise housing commission towers. The Boneyard, Barangaroo, is one of Sydney's most prestigious harbourside developments, filled with luxury high-rise apartments featuring top-of-the-line security systems. In recent years, underworld figures have increasingly been leasing expensive properties in these glittering towers, believing that the combination of height, security cameras and controlled access provides protection from potential execution attempts. The target of the Casula shooting is believed to be holed up in one of these Barangaroo apartments. The rival gang's message was clear: stop hiding behind your fancy security and face us. It's understood that nothing ever came of the proposed meetup at Waterloo Green, but the psychological warfare was underway. When asked about the note, a senior police source said they were obviously trying to determine what the message means and who sent it. But the broader picture was becoming clear. This wasn't just about one shooting, this was about power, territory and control. What's particularly disturbing to law enforcement is that filming acts of violence and leaving handwritten messages has become increasingly common in Sydney's gang landscape. This isn't just about settling scores anymore, it's about creating fear, asserting dominance and sending signals to multiple players in the criminal ecosystem. Just days before the Casula shooting on November 10th, another incident occurred at Quakers Hill. An alleged drug dealer was filmed being pistol whipped by an enforcer, and once again, a cardboard note was left behind. This time, the message claimed to be from a new Aussie cartel attempting to take control of Sydney's cocaine market. The note read, "Message from the cartel management, Oz cocaine market comply or face your fate." According to underworld sources, there is a growing conflict across the city. This so-called cartel has been kidnapping and assaulting people to assert its authority. Meanwhile, the Al-Medine family is embroiled in an ongoing feud with former associates known as the KVT. And on top of all that, Vietnamese organised crime groups are becoming more involved in shootings and drug rips than law enforcement has seen in years. As one underworld source described it, It's ugly out there in the southwest. Even more alarming, police sources revealed that just last month, 3 men were arrested for allegedly planning to livestream a murder at a Sydney daycare centre and leave a handwritten note on the victim's body. The level of calculated brutality is reaching new heights. Senior police officials have expressed particular concern about the increasing availability and use of machine guns in these attacks. The Casula shooting stands out because machine guns are extremely rare in Australia, given the country's strict firearms laws following the Port Arthur massacre and the subsequent buyback program. But somehow, these weapons are making their way into the hands of young criminals willing to use them in residential neighbourhoods. As one police source noted, the use of automatic weapons dramatically increases the risk of stray bullets hitting innocent homes, or even worse, innocent people. Here's another troubling trend that police have identified. These shootings are increasingly being outsourced. The actual gunmen are often young, lower-level criminals hired to carry out the hits. They may not even know who ordered the attack or why. As long as they get paid, they're willing to pull the trigger. Police believe those who carried out the Casula drive-by were likely contracted by someone they've never met and don't care about. One source suggested the shooters were probably Pacific Islanders hired to do the job, but they were simply following orders from higher up the criminal food chain. This outsourcing model makes investigations more difficult because the shooters themselves often have limited information about the true motivations, or the people behind the contracts. They're expendable foot soldiers in a much larger war. The violence didn't stop with the Casula shooting. Just one day later, on Sunday morning around 3 AM, a 69-year-old woman was kidnapped from her home in Cabramatta, just 15 minutes from Casula. She was held captive for 3 days before being released on Tuesday night, with injuries requiring hospital treatment. Police established Strike Force Kegar to investigate the kidnapping, and one of their key lines of inquiry is whether there's any connection to the Casula shooting. The victim has no criminal history herself, but authorities say she has relatives with links to the Underworld. There's no suggestion of any wrongdoing on her part, but she may have been targeted because of her family connections. Unfortunately, the victim and her relatives haven't been forthcoming with information, making the investigation challenging. Then, just 2 days after the Casula attack, on Monday evening, police intercepted what they're calling a potential kill car in Greystanes. 4 men wearing balaclavas were spotted in a black Mercedes SUV that had been stolen from Victoria. When police tried to speak to them, the driver took off, reaching speeds of up to 80 km per hour in 50 km zones. The pursuit ended when the SUV crashed into a parked car on Peyton Street in Maryland's West. 3 men fled on foot, but were eventually caught with help from Polaire and the dog unit. A 4th man escaped and remains at large. What police found in the vehicle was chilling. A loaded shotgun under the driver's seat and 2 jerry cans in the back. A senior police source said it wasn't yet clear what the men were planning, but you would imagine it was going to be a kidnapping, a drive-by shooting, or worse. 3 men were charged: Magdi Hassan, age 20, Roger Tell, age 19, and Kabu Bringer, age 22. Hassan, who allegedly drove the vehicle, was denied bail after the magistrate stated that the community needed protection from him and that the unacceptable risk he posed couldn't be addressed through strict bail conditions. On Friday, November 22nd, an elderly woman, Maria Uzabierga, narrowly escaped injury when gunmen attacked her Bossley Park home for the 2nd time in 24 hours. At 6:30 AM, she was in bed when a gunman fired more than 20 rounds from an AK-47 assault rifle into her Aberdeen Street property, with bullets flying into her bedroom. The attack was captured on video by the getaway driver, showing the masked gunman dressed in black firing nonchalantly from the back seat of a white Audi while shouting "woohoo" and quoting the famous Scarface line, "Say hello to my little friend."
Say hello to my little friend, nigga.
The elderly couple had already been targeted just 24 hours earlier with a single shot fired at their home. After Friday's escalation, Maria and her husband, Patricio, fled the property with no plans to return, according to family members. Police believe the couple may have been victims of mistaken identity, as they have no links to organised crime networks or gangs. The gunman's escape was short-lived. Just hundreds of meters from the scene, their Audi clipped another car, spun out and crashed into a bus stop. The attackers fled on foot, leaving the AK-47 in the back seat where police discovered it. A massive manhunt was launched, with heavily armed tactical police in camouflage, snipers on rooftops, and helicopters descending on a property in nearby Fairfield. Police moved swiftly to apprehend the attackers. At 1:30 PM on Friday, November 21st, officers executed a search warrant at the Woodville Road address in Fairfield West that tactical police had raided earlier that day, arresting a 22-year-old man. During the search, police allegedly discovered a shortened caliber rifle, ammunition and multiple mobile phones. Later that evening, at 6:15 PM, a 16-year-old boy was arrested after officers stopped a vehicle on Camden Valley Way in Leppington. Both were charged with firing a firearm at a dwelling in connection with organised criminal activity and participating in a criminal group contributing to criminal activity. The boy faced an additional charge of being carried in a stolen vehicle. Both were refused bail and appeared in court on Saturday, November 22nd. To understand where we are today, we need to look at the bigger picture. Sydney's current gang war kicked off in 2020 and has claimed dozens of lives in execution-style shootings. Police have publicly stated that the rulebook has gone out the window in the underworld. Women have been targeted, including the tragic double murder in 2022 of Lametta Fadlala, a female gangster, along with her innocent friend, Amy Hazuri, a hairdresser who was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. The conflicts driving this violence are multifaceted. At the heart of it is competition over Sydney's lucrative drug trade, particularly cocaine and methamphetamine. Police investigations suggest most shootings are linked to disputes over drug supply, with much of the violence concentrated in southwest Sydney. The hits are being outsourced to lower-level criminal groups who are willing to carry out extreme acts of violence for payment. Seasoned police sources say even they've been shocked by the increasing level of violence. As one officer described it, the gangs are getting looser and looser. The calculated brutality, the willingness to target family members, the use of military-grade weapons in suburban streets, all of it points to an underworld that has abandoned any semblance of restraint. The Casula shooting and its aftermath represent a disturbing snapshot of where Sydney's organised crime landscape stands today. Machine guns firing into suburban homes, handwritten taunts circulating through the underworld, kidnappings of innocent family members and young men recruited to carry out violence for pay. Law enforcement is responding with specialised task forces like the Raptor Squad, but the challenge is immense. As long as the drug trade remains profitable and disputes are settled with bullets rather than negotiations, Sydney's streets will remain dangerous. The question now is, how much worse will it get before it gets better? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. If you want more stories from the Australian underworld, please consider subscribing and liking this video. It really helps me out and helps the channel grow. Till next time, take care.